Hello, welcome to RIA Match's webinar, How to Achieve Marketing Success, Content Plus Design. I'm Ann Buchanan, founder and CEO of RIA Match. Thank you for joining us today. A recent FA Insight study of advisory firms found only 50% of surveyed firms developed an annual marketing plan, and just 32% of these firms had a position dedicated to marketing or new client growth. If you're looking to move the needle in the marketing of your firm, today's webinar will provide some great insights for you. We want you to be part of the discussion today. Thank you very much for coming. Let me cover some quick housekeeping rules. Let's see if I can get my slides going here. There we go. We've taken a screenshot of an example of the attendee interface. You should see something that looks like this on your own computer desktop or laptop in the upper right corner. You're listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you'd prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio panel, and that dial-in information will be displayed. So let's do an audio check. Raise your hand if you can hear me. Do you see where you can raise your hand in the panel? Let's do that. I'm going to pull this over here and see if I get that going. All right. Hang on one sec. All right. Let's see. All right, we've got some hands raised. Very good. One sec here. Pull this over. Hang on. Sorry, a little technical challenge there. Okay. I'm looking for my hand raises here, and there we go. I can see some hand raises. Sorry. My own video challenge there. Okay. You can view the presentation in full screen mode, and the way that you do that is on the top of that attendee control panel. Select the View menu and then Full Screen, or you can click the View button on the Grab tool to toggle between full screen and window mode. So your lines are automatically muted. So we're good to go there. We want to let you know that the webinar is being recorded, and it'll be up on the site on the webinar page on RIA Match's webinar by tomorrow. So be sure and let your colleagues know the session's recorded, and they can listen to it at their convenience. Now we'll take questions in the question box, and so that's where you type your questions in. So let's do this. Let's take on your question box, why don't you type in the city that you're calling from? And then that just sort of shows us all that you know, sort of confirms you guys can hear me, and then you can use the question box. There we go. Philadelphia, Boston. All right, more cities coming in here. Very good. Baltimore. Okay, Chicago, someone being funny, my city, I get that, but that tells me you're there, so that works. Okay, great. So you know how to raise your hand, and you know how to answer questions, so that's all the housekeeping that we need to do. So also, we will be conducting polling during the webinar, and we'll share the results with you as we go along. So that's always fun and insightful as well. So that's the end of housekeeping. Thank you very much for coming. We trust you will gain valuable information. What I want to do next is tell you a little bit about RIA Match. RIA Match provides financial advisors solutions for succession planning and growth. We have two services. The RIA Match platform offers low-cost, self-service solutions for succession planning and growth. The platform matches financial advisors with other financial advisors and firms who want to buy, sell, merge, or join, or add advisors to their practice. The advisors and the RIAs can search for free and pay to connect, anonymously and securely. Our second offering is RIA Match's Concierge Consulting. What we do here is we leverage the combination of the sophisticated algorithms in our technology and industry experts, and the combination increases the probability and the satisfaction of your match. Our consultants provide advice to crystallize the advisory firm's vision, goals, and action plan through a guided, personalized experience to obtain a greater sense of clarity, confidence, and an enduring match. Our goal is to bring advisors the most efficient tools and excellent information so you can make the best decisions for the success and growth of your firm. RIA Match has over 2,400 subscribers from 49 states that manage in excess of $250 billion of AUM. We'd like to welcome our panelists today. Bill McGuire. Bill is principal of W.M. McGuire, LLC. It is a marketing firm serving the registered investment advisory community. W.M. McGuire's mission is to help firms grow by applying common sense marketing with a keen eye toward your budget, deadlines, and results. Bill, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Marianne. It's really a privilege to be here and be invited to be part of the webinar. I've listened to many of them. And, you know, it's funny, you mentioned earlier about the FA Insight study. There continue to be a lot of reports, industry reports on growth being a top priority with RIAs. And content marketing really can help you achieve that. And that's what I want to spend a little bit of time on here today. So again, thank you for everyone attending.
Perfect, Bill. Thanks.
Sure.
Next up is Amanda. Amanda Newman is owner of All Things Design. It's a graphic and web design company with expertise in print and interactive design. Their work ranges from producing annual reports to responsive webinars and fully integrated marketing campaigns. Amanda, thanks for joining today.
Thanks, Marianne. I'm really excited to share a little bit about the design side of marketing with everyone, and I hope you're excited as I am. Looking forward to this.
That would be great. Thank you. And so I'm going to be moderating the panel today. What I'd like to do, if you remember when you registered for the webinar, you had a couple of registration questions. And part of the reason that we do this is that we want to let you know, as much as let us know, who is actually attending today, who's participating, and sort of what are their thoughts and concerns as it relates to marketing. But first, the types of firms that are participating in today's webinar. 16% of you are new to the industry without an established practice. 26% are early solo practitioners. 19% are mature solo practitioners. 10% are early ensemble firms. 19% are mature ensemble firms. And 10% are market dominators. So you can see we're pretty evenly spread out. There's a spike there in the early solo practitioner, which makes perfect sense. We also asked you if you had a marketing plan. 71% of you do not have a marketing plan. So we're really glad that you're here, and I know that Bill and Amanda are going to be able to help us and show insights, because some of this, you know, we can make incremental changes and have significant outcome and improvement. So that's what we're hoping for today. In response to the question, what is your biggest marketing challenge? 61, and there was a choice. So what is your biggest marketing challenge? And the choices were keeping our website up to date, effectively telling our story, identifying who within the firm owns the marketing tasks, and then all of the above. 61% of you selected all of the above. 23% indicated their biggest marketing challenge was effectively telling our story. That's very interesting and also makes sense. I get that. Okay, so Bill, what is all the buzz about content marketing? Walk us through what this is.
Sure, and you know, it's with marketing in general. Oftentimes, people ask me, "What's the hot thing right now?" And what should we be thinking about? And I usually tell them by starting. It's never just one thing, and it oftentimes starts with a plan. And so that really is the key, and that's interesting. That survey information is helpful to know as well. But content marketing, is something fairly new. In the last maybe 10 years, it's really taken off, and even more so in the last few years. But by definition, it's any marketing that involves the creation and sharing of media, on publishing that content in order to acquire and retain customers. On the next slide, I have a few quotes that describe this, and the one that I like the best, I think, is good marketing is about it's not good storytelling. It's about telling a story, a true story well. So it's, oftentimes with advertising, it's embellishing. And that's not what what content marketing does. It's really telling that true story well.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Good differentiator.
Yeah. So I guess we could go on to the next slide, and we'll go through all these. These are some good examples of content marketing. And then, why is it important to RIAs? Well, it's important for a number of reasons. And here's a quick list of them. As I just mentioned earlier, I mean, trust in advertising is it's terrible, but it's certainly not what it used to be. Content marketing can help you deliver quality lead generation. It fulfills a desire for more information, which we'll speak about a little bit later. It ties in very well with web marketing, so improved for those unfamiliar with search engine optimization. It really is a good way to get more people and more traffic on your website. This is my favorite. It's positioning you as a brand leader. I think that's so important with RIAs, and that you really, what makes you different and why are you better, and that's the story that you want to be able to tell. And there's a few others that said, if one which is customer decision making, strong return on investment. It works very well with social media. If you're using social media, you really have some compelling information to put out there, and it gets customers to really connect with you.
And I think when you talk, Bill, about positioning your brand as a leader and being able to tell that story, I think that's really an important part when we talk about, many of the attendees were like, we need to tell our story better. And that can be done.
Yeah, and to that point, a couple things to think about, I think, is which helps you define that, is what are you really passionate about? And is there a particular niche or unique client type that you serve? Who within the firm is the best to tell the story? That's an interesting one, because oftentimes it's not always the firm principal. It's really the person that is probably the best storyteller in your firm, right. And that person necessarily also has to be very committed to the role. It's not something, may not be a big investment of money, but certainly an investment of time oftentimes.
Well, that's very interesting, because I think a lot of times as advisory firm owners, we think it's my job to tell the story. It's my job. And I think maybe, that's something that I'd like to flesh out. I think that's very interesting. Who is the best storyteller? Often it's probably the owner, but maybe there's someone else that's got that ability and can be out there.
Sure. And then the last part of that is again, just like financial advisors tell their clients, you can't do it all. How do you do it? And should you be writing that content yourself? Should you be working with a professional? It's always a collaborative process. You don't want somebody to do it all for you, but sometimes you can even just hire a professional to do editing, to look at your writing and clean it up a little bit and make the content pop a bit. So those are all things to think about with regards to your strategy. So we'll go to the next slide.
Okay, well, do you want to do a poll, or are you ready for a poll or slide?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure. So we're going to start with our first polling question. And just 1 second, it'll appear on your screen. Okay, here it comes. What form of content marketing have you used or presently use? Blog, email newsletter, webinar or podcast, or video? Okay, well, and this is an easy question. We've got 45% have voted. We'll give you a couple more minutes to bring our tab to the front. 73 have voted. Great. I'll close the poll in about 10 seconds here. Okay, good deal. At the 30-second mark, I'll do it. Okay, here we go. So here are our results. I'm going to close the poll. And so this is, here are the results. Isn't that impressive? How about that? So 89% use email newsletter, which is great, and 11% blog. Wonderful. So, Bill, what can you tell us about that? I probably should have left that result up there.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, actually, if we go to the next slide, I'll talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
And certainly, email newsletters are great. It's it's a good way to tell many different parts of the story and tell it in an organized way. I think what people are not always aware of that there are so many other ways in addition to that. This chart has kind of two parts to it. The content distribution is how you get that information out there. Of course, your website is probably the most obvious. Things like your Facebook page, Twitter account, those are all kind of the mechanisms to get that out there. But what you should also be considering are what types of content that you can put together. Certainly, newsletters we had mentioned are articles, and infographics are certainly one of the hottest and most impactful these days. People are very drawn to the images, and I always think of the USA Today little captions that are in the right-hand corner. People are looking for good information, valuable information, but they're looking for it fast. And infographics is a great way to do that. As there's other things, even your website. Look at the website copy. Consider rewriting that or updating that, keeping that update. Not only does it bring more people to your site through the SEO searches by updating your site, but it also gives people a reason to come back if you're putting compelling information out there. Oftentimes, websites are left to are designed and then people leave them alone and don't come back to it. And that's not what you want to be doing. You want to have certain sections in there that are always being updated.
That's a good point. Not to jump around, but Bill, do you have any source for infographics? Is that something that you could do for people, or is it something that we direct them to? I think the infographic piece is really a great one.
Yeah, usually working with a design firm. I don't know that there's necessarily specific firms. The way there are web designers, usually can be done by a design firm like Amanda's.
Okay. Sure.
But there's no necessarily quick things like that. But there are for other things, and we'll get further into as we talk about how you can with social media. There's many tools to do things a lot easier on your own.
Okay.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does. It does. But I agree with you. I think that they're very good. Infographics are a tremendous way, and they can put them. It's kind of like you can create an infographic, and you can use that as content to put out on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, and you can also have it be part of your newsletter. So trying to get the most mileage out of any content that you create.
Yeah, in fact, this slide here, which I should have credited, is from the Content Marketing Institute, and it's an infographic. It's basically, two images that tell a pretty good story there. That you need those two pieces of the puzzle to be effective with content marketing. Right.
Very good. Do you need me to advance the slide for you?
Yes, please. Yeah, I think the next slide would be great.
Okay.
So, I think one of the first things to start is creating an editorial calendar, because oftentimes what people do with blogs, especially with blogs, is they'll create the first blog, do it for a few more weeks, and then get busy with other things. And it's not because they don't necessarily have the time to do it, is they don't set the time to do it. And there's a big difference between the two. So if you schedule time on your calendar to do these things, you're more likely to do it. I know someone that does web blogs every Friday morning, and that's their time. They set aside 3 hours to work on their blog, and they put it on the calendar. And you can use a Google Calendar, you can use your Outlook Calendar. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This happens to be a very aggressive one for a firm that probably does, a larger firm that does a lot of content marketing. But you want to not only put in the time that you're going to be creating the content, but also the time you're going to be distributing it. And so you can block it off, and you can color code it just to know, what type of activities you're going to be doing during those weeks. And I guess it helps you to be that you're not repetitive. You can see what you're writing about, so you're staying on message. The things that you want to identify are certainly the topic, the format, whether it's going to be newsletter, blog, infographic, and then who's responsible for that. If you're a firm that has multiple people, you want to be able to assign that, and you can do that through as I said, something simple as a Google Calendar where you have the individuals that are involved in the production of this signed up, even if they're external. So if you're using an outside person to write it, invite them to the Google Calendar, and that becomes your kind of your machine to keep your schedule, to keep everybody on task and on the same page.
Yeah, and you raised a good point. It's even because we've got a majority of the attendees today are solo practitioners. So your point's well taken. Even if you've got someone that is, you're bringing in an outside source, you decide, okay, this is when it's due. This is review of the draft. This is when it's due, so that you can still creating the editorial calendar can exist even if you're outsourcing the task.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's sort of project management.
I go out about 3 months just because it gives you the time to plan and again, not always be in that kind of frantic mode of what am I going to write about next week, or what are we going to be working on next week.
So you go out 3 months with the topics then.
3 months with the topics, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good idea. And so then, as you see, if you go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and the frequency, that really is something you have to decide on your own. Some people are not as comfortable with putting out content every day. There are people that do that. I think there's some people that like to put out content weekly, some monthly. That's really what. There's no right or wrong answer. It's what you're most comfortable with.
Okay. Well, that answered my question. There really is no right or wrong.
No, it's more important to be consistent, and then on the other side of it, the other part of it is to measure it. So to keep an eye on what's working and what's not. I'll get into that a little bit further as well.
Okay. You ready for the next slide?
Let's move on. Thank you.
All right.
Leveraging technology. Here's a good example of what we've done with the webinar, and hopefully got a few of the people here on there. We use a tool, Hootsuite, which allows you to connect all of your social media networks in one place. So it's really it's kind of a foolproof system for managing it in-house, or whether you use a consultant. Again, you can be collaborative in that way, but it's very affordable, customizable, and it's a great platform for managing your social media. It allows you to create single posts that you can distribute through multiple users, and also social media networks. So you can put it on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, all the ways. And then if you have certain groups that you're involved with, you can post it to those groups. You really can customize that outlet to who you want it to go to. It allows you to schedule it on times and dates, and then you can even run analytic reports to see who's viewed it and reposting it. So it really it's a way to be more efficient in what you're doing, but you still have to kind of commit the time to it. It doesn't necessarily there's still time that you have to take to do it. I think the most important thing is to make sure that whatever technology you're using, really understand the features and the limitations of it before you choose it, and you're comfortable with it, and you're able to leverage it for its full capacity.
Yep, and they are tremendously powerful tools and pretty user-friendly. I mean, it's designed for a basic person to use. You don't have to have a PhD. No coding involved. None of that. Pretty straightforward,
right? No, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, and most of them have a lot of online tools, tutorials.
Right.
Hootsuite has Hootsuite University, which I think is there's a fee for it, but if you really want to get very sophisticated and really get into it, there's a lot with these tools you can do yourself and learn yourself if you have either time or possibly an intern that someone internally that
put on that task.
Want to get put on that hat and wear that. So if we can go to the next slide. I won't spend too much time on this, but a couple examples of here's a firm I'm in New Jersey, so it's a local firm, Region Atlantic, that uses their blog, and just to keep it's a good example of a blog that gives you the ability to search by topic. Oftentimes it's a simple enough thing, but a lot of times people don't tag the content, and all of a sudden they've got 30 blog posts, and there's no really way to search it for people to search and go in. So this one on the right-hand side, I don't know if you can see, there's some of the topics, and it makes it more of a library so that people can come back, find content that's interesting to them, and it becomes a resource.
I think the use of tags is critical. I think that's something that people just need to get in the habit of. And sometimes I think they feel like, well, I don't know exactly what to tag it. Better just to start, right? Just give it start with a high general title and go.
Yeah, you can always work your way down, but but you're right. Think those through beforehand, because it makes it a lot easier as you go. And then just make it easy for people to subscribe. They have on their website this subscription icons are right there in front of you. They're front and center, so that's a nice little point that they have on there.
And I'm just looking at their Better Thinking blog, medical foreign travel insurance. So it's not, it's not exactly investing. But it's something that someone might find useful, that their client base might find useful. So I think that's interesting too. What you blog about can be your subject matter expertise that your advisory firm works with, or something that you genuinely think your clients will find of interest.
Yeah, and that really is an excellent point, which I'll get into a little bit further on. And then here's just another example of a firm on the West Coast, and you can see all the different things that they do across that banner there. They've got a whole host of workshops and education. This firm does webinars. They're a larger firm. Again, you have to be able to manage what you're doing. But just an example, they've got a radio program that they've had for many years, and again, they have their own library that they've created for their clients and for prospects. So, it certainly can grow into whatever you want to do with content marketing.
And interesting here, Bill, I'm seeing they show this as, Hanson McLean, and as you said, it's a large firm, but Money Matters Academy. So the thing that talks to me about Academy is there's nothing for sale here. This is information, ways to inform our clients, things they might find interesting, education.
Right.
So that's
a good point.
That's a great way to go about it.
Yeah.
For firms that want to differentiate themselves, in caring for their clients and giving them the information that they feel their clients need.
Absolutely. And this is what you were just saying about being personal. I think that it's really important that it be authentic. You don't want to be a me too. If somebody's already doing it, that's great. Let them do it. Find things that mean something to you, and you're not copying or competing with someone else. Again, I think that be engaging. It's important to be clear, and the infographics is a great example of making it easy for people to get it. I think that's there's so many things that people are competing for your attention. That keeping it short and sweet is most people will appreciate that, and it shouldn't be an effort on their part to get the point of the story. And that's I oftentimes see some of the newsletters and other kind of monthly recaps that are paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. I personally don't have the time to go through it. If it's not a quick read, I'm probably going to pass on it. And then always have a call to.
Sorry. All right. I think that it takes the pressure off the advisor too if they know that the content they have to create does not have to be a white paper. It can be a short paragraph or 200 to 500 word essay, which is not overwhelming. That's not too big of an assignment, which make it, which helps.
Yeah, and a lot of the blogs today respect that in that if you've seen, hoping other people have seen this, but it's pretty general practice these days to put the time, whether it's 3.5 minutes or 5 minutes and 45 seconds, on how much time it takes to read that blog post, because I think people realize that there's a lot out there, and you're asking a lot if you're going to ask somebody to something like a webinar or a white paper, and it's important that they know how much time it's going to take them to go through this. And then the last kind of takeaway, as I said, this all talks about in the planning stages is have a call to action. It's nothing new to marketing, but it's oftentimes when you think about what you want the user to do when they've read this, what are they walking away with? So what's the next logical step for them in the process? Is it downloading a white paper that has more information? Is it attending a seminar so they can get to meet you? Is it scheduling an office visit to meet you? There should always be a very strong call to action and a very logical one.
That's good. And even if it is, not necessarily coming back to the firm, but like if it's, organizing your tax paper, before you come in for your taxes, organize your paperwork. Here's a way to organize it. So the call to action can be just for their own betterment.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point. We talked about technology a little bit earlier with Hootsuite. That's for managing social media. There's others out there. That's just the one that I use and prefer. And there's TweetDeck, and there's a few others that are out there. I won't spend much time on email newsletters since 91% of the people are using it already. And then for blogs, there's some different sites that are specifically for blogs, Blogger and a couple other websites that produce website blogs. I think WordPress is certainly the leader in it, in managing that content management system. And as Marianne had said earlier, very user-friendly. You can manage not only your website, but also your blog. It's actually, I believe WordPress was set up or established as a blog before it became the platform of choice these days for websites.
And what's really nice is a lot of these large platforms that are here for us to use are integrated. So MailChimp and Hootsuite, you can integrate them. You can a lot of these systems. So look to see if they work together. I use Insightly, which is integrated with MailChimp. So there's all and that's a contact management system. So there are all kinds of systems out here, and they are often integrated. So it's always good to look to see how they might be connected.
Yep, excellent point. Yeah, so again, it helps with efficiency and effectiveness as well. So I'm really kind of towards the end of some of these tips and takeaways. The last one I have is prioritizing and doing it right. And I think this first one is true of all marketing. It's really oftentimes I find that advisors take that kind of that whack-a-mole approach where they feel like they have to do it all because there's so many great ways to market your firm, and you want to be able to do it all. But I caution you in saying that it's probably a lot better to find out what works best for you, and then stick with that and try that and really try to do that as well as you can. So if your focus is on doing a blog, which is great, do that blog as best as you can. Find a way to get that out to as many people as you can. Get more people to sign up for your blog. Focus, have a single focus, and then branch out from there. Especially if you're sole proprietor, you can't do it all. It's just it doesn't make sense. What I also recommend is doing after-action assessments. Especially on larger initiatives, and they're really true of any marketing initiative, whether it's an event or content marketing. Really look at what, and right afterwards, day after you do something, look at what worked, what didn't work, and then how can you make it better for the next time. Because all these content marketing initiatives are repeatable tasks, and the goal is to keep moving that needle, as Marianne had said earlier in the meeting. And then just a reminder, I think that I'd say that probably the biggest takeaway for me is with content marketing is having an editorial calendar. If you have that, it goes to that old adage about planning your work and working your plan. It really is true in this case. If you have a good plan behind you, it's going to be a lot easier and a lot more. You'll be a lot more confident in being able to implement that plan effectively.
Bill, on the after-action assessment, I actually have two questions. and I just want to ask, I know I'm jumping in here in the middle of it all, but I want to ask while we're here. In the after action assessment, where do I go to get that information? So let's say I've done a blog and I've put it out there. Now I have a blog, so I create a blog on WordPress, let's say. Then how do I know, what's my after action assessment for my blog?
So, and it could also be true of an email newsletter. Probably a good place to start would be with the reports that are within the software, the blogging software, on how many people have clicked through and read it, and look at all the different statistics that are available that are helpful. And same with your, hopefully you have Google Analytics set up on your website to see if there's been a spike in your website traffic, and involve the people that are involved in the process. So if you have a web designer, or if you have someone that's managing the content yourself, don't necessarily do it yourself. Schedule a call, even if it's a 15-minute call, to go through how things worked, what did, what didn't, and then have very specific actions after that. Say, okay, well, for the next one, we're going to try this, and we're going to try to make this better. We're not going to do this because that certainly didn't help us. Those type of things, but have very specific action items after you have gone through it.
Okay, here's my other question. All right, 89% send email of our attendees send email newsletters, 11% blog. If I were sending an email newsletter, so it goes in email blast, and if that email blast is done through like MailChimp or something, then I can see my my results. I can then have the assessment of how many clicks and opens and that kind of thing. So the blog could be included in the email newsletter. Just differentiate for me a blog and an email newsletter.
Sure. The blog, and there is overlap in all of it. The blog typically is something that you're posting on the website. You may share it, as we said earlier, through social media as you're posting it. You don't have to, but it can be sent. But oftentimes, it is something that if you have, whether it's a weekly or a monthly recap, you're going to include links to those blog posts as part of your update. So there's a connection between the two, and however you decide you want to measure it, they should be integrated and they should be measured. I hope that answers.
It does. It does. So the email newsletter could have things in it that wouldn't be in a blog, but a blog could be in an email newsletter.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think that's probably a good way for me to frame that.
Yeah. The blogs are more just articles, and stories.
Right.
Essentially a story that you're telling about one single topic.
Versus in an email newsletter, you might have the dates that the office is going to close early for the holidays, or someone's birthday is celebrated, or something like that, and the blog would be a specific topic germane to what their subject matter expertise is.
That's right.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So, Amanda, you with us still?
Yes, I am. I'm right there.
Good deal. Thanks. So, Amanda's firm is All Things Design. It's more than just pretty pictures, which I think is a great point. There's a whole lot to it. And Amanda, do we want to start with a poll?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great place to start, Marianne.
Okay, great. So here's our question, guys. You ready? Here we go. And I've just launched it. How do you know when it's time to revise your brand and logo? So just go ahead and select one, where your logo is too complex or it doesn't work well in smaller sizes. Or you've updated and changed your firm name. You no longer like your logo. Maybe you've outgrown it. Or maybe you feel it's lost its contemporary aspect. And then the other one is all of the above. So 45% have voted. So here we go. We can just everybody have a jump on, bring our tab to the front and just take a look at the quick poll. And we'll close it here in just a second. So yeah, there we go. We've got got some pretty conclusive information there. All right, I'm going to close the poll now. Let me share the results with you. All right, all of the above is the resounding winner. So the logo is too complex. It doesn't look good small. It needs to be updated. I no longer like it. All of these things can happen. So, Amanda, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see a couple of people chose the "you no longer like your logo" option. I'll go into this a little bit more in depth in a few moments, but ultimately you need to like your logo because you have to live with it every day. And the logo is kind of the basis of your brand. Your brand is built upon your logo. So it's nice to see that, you know, some people recognize if you're not liking it anymore, if it doesn't resonate with you, maybe you should take another look at it.
Yeah, that's honesty. That's honest assessment, right? That's a little hard to say, gee, I put this out here and now I'm not so crazy about it.
Yep, absolutely. And it happens to everyone. Not unusual.
Right.
And, you know, even if you still love your logo, a good rule of thumb is to maybe consider an update or a refresh every 5 years or so, just to keep kind of current with the times. You know, colors change, fonts change, your business focus might change a little bit, and it might be just a couple minor tweaks to your existing logo is going to update it and give it that little bit of a refresh that it needs and make you love it again.
And especially if you're thinking also that design also affects websites, where you need to sort of, as they say, reskin it, give it a more modern look. I know that's on our first quarter of 2016. That's on our list.
Yep, absolutely. So it's always a good idea to kind of do a full brand evaluation and make sure that you are still relevant with your business and with what's going on in the industry.
Right.
So with that, I kind of want to dive into how do you create a brand. And at its most basic, a brand is a name, term, design, symbol, or other feature that will distinguish your product from someone else's. It is typically represented by things such as the logo, your messaging, the color palette, your marketing materials, signage, and so on. A good graphic design or branding firm is usually your best place to begin establishing your brand. And talk to colleagues whose brands you like and ask them who they've used. A referral is usually the best way to find a reputable firm. And then at that point, the firm will work with you to determine what your specific needs are and how to get those needs met. It might just be a logo refresh. You might not need anything else than that. It might include a logo refresh, you know, reevaluating your website, working with a content marketing specialist such as Bill to determine if the email newsletter is the best way to reach your customer base. Those are all things that you can talk to your branding or graphic design firm about. And if you're an individual, your brand is really more than just you. It should represent you and your business. So spend the time to establish a solid brand that your customers will remember. A visually appealing brand legitimizes your organization in people's minds. If you think about bad logos or brands that you've seen, what perception of the organization did you have? Even if it was an amazing organization, you probably didn't walk away with the greatest impression if they didn't have a good brand or logo behind them. And a strong brand gives people a sense of what you do and who you do it for. You want to make it relevant to your business, whether that's with the name, a symbol, or a tagline. But most importantly, make sure you love your brand. You're the one that has to live with it. And it's great and recommended to get opinions of others, maybe outside the market. They're probably going to see something that you're not seeing, but your mom, your neighbor, your best friend, your dog walker, whoever you're getting these opinions from, they don't have to live with that brand or logo every day. So keep that in mind when you are soliciting advice from others. And
you know,
okay, sure, go ahead.
You know what, Amanda, you said something that really resonates for me, that even if you're a solo practitioner, which most of the attendees on our call are today, that the brand represents more than just you. It represents your firm. And I think that that's a really good distinction that it's that even your clients, when they realize this is the firm that I'm dealing with, because you can add advisors to your firm, and then all of a sudden it's not just you, it's you and your new advisor. It really gives you the platform within which to grow your firm and to establish a type of credibility with a logo that you feel represents not only where you are but where you want to go.
Absolutely, that's a great point, Marianne. And like you said, a strong logo, it's at the root of your brand, whether it's you or you and your business. It gives people a sense of what you do and who you do it for. And obviously a single image or icon can't say everything you want it to say, but there are subtle ways that you can get your message through in your logo. And some of the most iconic brands that are out there are easily identifiable without even needing the name. If you think of the Nike swoosh, it creates the impression of motion and speed. And you can see on the screen here, I'm sure everyone knew immediately that second image, that was Nike. It's just a very iconic brand. They've achieved that through amazing branding and consistency.
Right, exactly. Are you ready to move on?
Yeah, we are. We're ready to move on.
Great.
So now that you've established the logo and the brand, what do you do now? You've likely invested a lot of time and energy into creating your brand, which is great, but now is the time to use it. You want to get it out there, let people see it. The more you reinforce your brand, the more memorable it becomes. If you order notepads, put your logo on them. If you donate to a local charity, a lot of times they will mention you in their list of sponsors, but ask them if they can include your logo with your name, not just your name. When you're sending out emails to clients, you have your email signature. Make sure your logo is in your email signature. The more people who know and remember your logo, the more established your brand becomes. Beware, though, with so many different places and opportunities to get your logo out there, it's easy for it to get manipulated or distorted. And it's okay and usually recommended to have different variations of your logo. It was not designed to be a one-size-fits-all element. If you have a horizontal logo, probably not going to work very well in a tall banner ad, so you're going to need a vertical logo for that. A landscape version of your logo should look similar but not identical to the portrait version. If you have a tagline, create a logo with and without it. All of these variations, they still are a part of your brand. But remember, keep it consistent. Consistency is key to maintaining a memorable brand. As we have here with the credential examples, you see the vertical version, horizontal, with and without tagline, even putting it on a colored background. These are all still acceptable uses of the logo, and they help build that brand. Yep, there we go. Thank you, Marianne.
Sure.
So one of the best ways to maintain that brand consistency is with a style guide that your design firm or your branding firm can help you create. And you might think it's a lot of hassle for a little bit of return, but creating a good style guide when developing your brand will really help ensure that you maintain that consistent and professional feel. And at a minimum, your style guide should include examples of how the logo can and can't be used. Is it okay to change the color of your logo? Can you put it on a photograph? Can the font be changed? There really is no right or wrong answer here. The important thing is to establish the rules and stick to them. Make sure that they're included in your style guide. The comprehensive style guide.
Yeah, who gets a style guide? When you say so.
Sure. Typically, the style guide, once you create it, you don't want to just hide it on your server and forget about it. You want to share it with everyone that works for you. Make sure they know where it is and make sure they know the elements that are involved in it. But most importantly, the style guide is typically distributed to outside vendors that you're using. If you seek out a web design firm, you'll want to give them your style guide. Social media experts, give them your style guide. Even someone, if you're having some promotional pens or notepads or shirts made up, give your style guide to that vendor. It's going to further ensure that you are maintaining the consistency in your brand. The vendor might think that it's okay to do your logo in yellow, and that might not be a part of your style guide. So The more people that know how to use your brand, the better maintained your brand is going to be.
In the style guide, so would that, Amanda, would that be like I'm sending them a file that has the images in different sizes, the landscape, the portrait, the colors, where it's all done, and then they can just copy and paste and drop it into whatever they're creating?
Typically, the style guide is usually just an information document. When I create style guides, I save them as PDFs. It will have the color information, the RGB numbers or the hex numbers for a website. It will list the fonts that should be included. But if you are needing to send the logo to a vendor, that will be a separate file. That's typically not something that you can pull out of the style guide.
Got it. Thanks for the clarity there.
And one additional thing I want to draw attention to, especially in this day and age of technology, fonts and colors tend to differ slightly in a brochure versus a website. So you'll want to make sure that your style guide indicates the fonts that are acceptable in a brochure or on your business card versus those that you can use on your website. And for example, Times New Roman, you can use that font on a website. You might have a font that looks similar to that but is a little bit more styled for your business cards. So you can include both of those in your style guide. Same thing with colors. A lot of blues and greens need to be tweaked for the web so that they look a little bit brighter and more vibrant than what you typically see on your business card. So that's the type of information that you want to include in your style guide.
And so it's really the world of a designer that would have that information and be able to tweak that, right? So
yes.
We would come to someone like you and say, okay, this, it's a designer that would create that style guide.
Yes, create it in
based on our input. Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
So I mentioned, the use of different fonts and colors for the web, and you might need to back up a little bit. Well, why do I really need to be online? Well, with an audience of over 3 billion people worldwide, you really have to have an online presence. It can be as simple as a LinkedIn page dedicated to your business, or as robust as a website, weekly blog posts, Twitter feeds, some of the things that Bill mentioned earlier. Regardless what it is, your brand needs to have an online presence. Technology changes quicker than we can blink, but there are a couple ways to stay relevant in this fast-changing world. If you're using stock photography, make sure that it represents today. Please don't put any flip phones, feathered hair, or popped collars in your stock photography. Movement on your homepage can be very eye-catching, but people are busy. They don't want to have to initiate that movement, so set up an automatic slideshow on your homepage so that it'll rotate through. And if you're going to include a news section or press releases on your site or in any of your email newsletters, make sure that the articles are current. You really don't want anything out there that's over a year old. And if you do have a website, ask yourself if you want your users to return or if it's strictly an informational site. Again, either answer is fine, but remember that consistent and repeated exposure is a good thing. Your call to action should reflect this. If you want the user to do more than just read about your business, invite them to a webinar. Ask them to sign up for your newsletter or your mailing list. A well-designed and strategically placed call to action is more impactful than just a small call me for more information on your contact us page.
So in the call to action, so when you're saying create a strong call to action, I think that's really important. So what you're saying is like register for the webinar, subscribe to my blog, that kind of action step?
Yes, those are the types of things that will create a repeat performance, for lack of a better word, for the user. It gives them a reason to come back and have exposure to your brand again. It gives them an opportunity to possibly talk to you, as opposed to someone just coming to the site, getting a little bit of information, not really seeing what they should do or any opportunities to engage with you, and leaving your site and possibly never thinking about it again.
So sort of the difference of originally websites were kind of like soft copies of the brochures you'd pick up when you went into the office.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're much more interactive. And it's that
Yes.
call to action that makes it interactive.
Yes, the call to action, like I said, the slideshow on the home page, while it might be automatic, there might be different calls to action on each of those pages to engage the user. You want to keep them on your website. The longer they're on the site and the more exposure they have to your logo and your brand, the more likely they are to remember you and become intrigued, possibly make that call or take action.
And also, the more that you change that content, at least in some places, they're going to revisit the website.
Mm-hmm.
See the new
Yeah,
content.
that's also why it's a great idea if you are sending out newsletters to have some linking back to your site and make sure that it links to pages that you are keeping updated and that you are changing. That's a great way to keep current users or users that get your newsletter engaged with your site.
Yep, very good, very good.
Okay, I think we're ready for
the pretty pictures. Yeah,
the pretty pictures. When a brand is designed well, it will be cohesive and memorable, yet it's flexible enough to translate into multiple mediums. And here you've got 3 different brands, and they run the gamut of mediums from brochure to some one-sheets, trade show displays, website, an app. There's some ads and emails, but ultimately all of them combine to create a cohesive, memorable, pretty picture brand. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up.
I have a question for you on the picture part.
Absolutely.
So, but like if we look at, and this is sort of with RA Match, what we're looking at is we're in our first quarter of next year, sort of changing the images on our website, making them more, and it's been around for a long time, but when Twitter did that broad reach picture on the front,
Mm-hmm.
That was really memorable. And so you've seen a lot of that repeated on other sites. And that sort of scroll down and you get these large sort of landscape pictures with information between them. So it's sort of bite-sized pieces, but very large and engaging. So that's something that when you say the pretty pictures, I mean that really, and also they don't necessarily relate to exactly what the site's about, but it just sort of connotes a feeling.
Absolutely, and that's one of the nice things about pictures nowadays, that the world of stock photography has evolved so much that there are a number of different conceptual images out there. You might want to convey the idea of growth. Well, you can go beyond what used to be your stereotypical, little plant sprouting out of the ground. Growth can encompass anything. You can use it in nature. You can use it with food. It doesn't have to be finance industry specific. It can be very conceptual, and I think people understand that. People almost expect that. They want something visually pleasing to look at, especially if you're dealing with some heavier topics. You need a little break in there a little bit. So let the pictures do that for you.
And then that's a really good point, because I think in the advisory world, I think sometimes we feel hemmed in, that it's got to be the conference room table and, the 2 people with the glasses and the shaking hand and the leaning over the laptop kind of look. And it can, it does, what's your thought on that? It could be different, right? It could be something entirely away from that.
Absolutely. I personally prefer stepping away from that a little bit. That has its time and its place if you are really getting into the details of a topic and you want a picture in there. By all means, go ahead and put the advisor-client relationship image in there. But on a lighter note, initially engage people with a feel-good image. It can still relate to your business, but it can be a little bit lighter, a little bit more feel-good. You want someone to open that brochure. You want them to click on that page and move to the next page in your website. So give them a reason to. Give them a nice picture. Let them, see what else is there. It's also helpful if you use a consistent theme. you know, I had mentioned nature. That's pretty broad, but if you use nature, then all of your images have this consistent theme that, again, further reinforces your brand.
And also, if someone's looking to differentiate their firm from another firm, and maybe one of the differentiators is where they're located, that they want to be well known locally, to do some local pictures, just so that immediately connotes this is a local firm. So it's things
Absolutely.
like that open it up. Well, we're coming up on the hour here, so I want to be very respectful of everyone's time. So this has been really, really informative. I do want to open it up for questions. So for those who have a meeting at the top of the hour, I want to let you go. We're going to go to the Q&A section now, and we will go from there. So here are Bill and Amanda's contact information. So feel free to jot that down and reach out to them directly. Also in the handouts, you'll see 4 RIAs. You can download that right there on the right-hand side. That is a good sheet that explains the work that Bill and Amanda do. They do some collaborative work together. So be sure and look at that. Any questions or thoughts? Okay, few things to look at here. Who within the firm is best to lead the content marketing efforts? So Bill, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier. It's really who has the most passion and can tell that story best.
Right. That's true. Yep, that's right. And that it doesn't have to be the firm leader. That's a very good point. Another question here: what is the right amount to budget for marketing?
Well, there's different studies. Most of the people here on the firm are small business, so I recently looked at you can go to like SBA.gov, and I think it's around it's under 10%. It's like a 7 or 8%, but it's important to distinguish the different budgets within marketing. So you have brand development, which is the type of work that Amanda does primarily, is the branding aspect of it. And then the other side of it are those campaigns, the promotional costs that are involved with your business, and that could be a little wider range. The things that I talk to, social media, but there's also other marketing that you're doing, client events and things of that nature. So it's important to keep that, but obviously it should be something that is tied into your revenue and as a percentage of your revenue, and then also something that you should be measuring on a quarterly basis. Is a good way to look at what you're spending and then what you're getting in return for that.
Okay, great. Well, as I said, thank you very much. I want to go ahead and bring it to a close now so that we're close to staying within our 1 hour. I think we're just a couple minutes over. But this has been very, very informative. Thank you both very much for joining us. And also thank you to our audience for taking the time to come learn today on how to achieve marketing success. We're grateful that you're part of the RIA Match community, and we wish you a happy holiday season and a very happy new year. Good afternoon. This concludes our webinar today. Thank you so much.